Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. So, when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcast, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books that can be found on Amazon. I'm available for speaking engagements, so please contact me by Facebook and or LinkedIn. I have with me Jheri Hardaway, who is a staff writer and business development uh, for the Carolinian. She is running for the North Carolina State Senate District 12.
Mhm.
I am pleased to have uh, Jheri Holiday come and share with listeners of this podcast. So, want to welcome her to this show this morning. Jheri, would you share with us just a little about yourself? I know that I've introduced you, and that might be all you want to say, but would you tell us where you are located?
Sure. I am Jheri Hardaway, originally from Cary, North Carolina, and I now live in Dunn, North Carolina after quite a bit of experiences, living in different parts of the country, living abroad. And I'm so happy to be home. I moved back home to North Carolina during the pandemic, pretty much after George Floyd whole uprising. I decided I wanted to be back in North Carolina, and it's a great time to be in North Carolina, as you know, Dr. Smith. So I'm just, excited to connect with you and your listeners. And I was thrilled to sit next to you at the Durham NAACP banquet, you and your friends and your cousin, and it was just great energy at our table. And I'm so glad that we're doing this and we're in connection now.
Well, great. I'm glad to have you on. And I was really pleased to know that I was sitting beside such a distinguished person who is in the journalism business and
Hmm.
writing and what have you. So
Hmm.
that was a blessing. Um, and I know when we talked that you doing a few things. You writing staff writer for the Carolinian and you told me that you getting ready to run for the North Carolina State Senate,
That's right.
District 12.
That's
What
right.
what amazing thing to do. I've always loved politics myself, so I'm always excited when somebody comes on and they're into the politics, and so we can talk. Um, the question I guess I want to ask you is, what was it that really made you decide that you want to run for North Carolina Senate
Hmm.
District 12? Tell listeners what it was. I know it had to be something. Now, come on, tell us
Yeah,
what.
that's how life is. As a writer, we're always looking for the inciting incident, right? So what was it? Well, it was a couple of things. I've always kind of been a writer and an observer. I like to write about experiences. I like to write about things I've seen, people I've met, things like that. So when I was a kid, I was talking a lot because I had a lot of observations. And my mom, all my birthday and Christmas gifts were always pens, pencils, color pens, notebooks, journals, scrapbooks, all those types of things. And she would be like, please go write it down because I was talking so much that she was like, you need to go write it down. So over the years, people are, oh, you should be a sales professional. You should be a politician. So I always kind of had these things swirling in the back of my head, and just, enjoyed the possibilities. I grew up, we would watch the news every night. We would watch WREL, then we would watch Dan Rather. So I
Mhm.
always was aware of what was going on, and I started developing opinions and thoughts on things. And even when I was really young, I started reading about three. I love to read, and my parents, they started spelling things back and forth because I was so nosy in their conversation. But it actually helped me digest
Hmm.
and read things even faster because, I can read relatively quickly because I'm looking for certain words.
Hmm.
You don't necessarily, the filler words, they just
Hmm.
kind of fall into the background. And so my parents, of course, they were talking to each other. They would spell out people's names or spell out the verbs or the nouns. And so
Hmm.
I was able to put it together. I'll never forget being in the car with my dad. I was about 3 years old, and he would let me ride in the front.
Hmm.
I wasn't supposed to. And one day I looked out the rearview mirror and it said, I said, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. And he looked at me and I looked at him. We were like, I can read. So,
Okay.
I've just always had this thirst for knowledge, and
Hmm.
then became the desire for change as I went to North Carolina A&T and started to learn so much about our history. And, I grew up in Cary, so I grew up, around a lot of
Hmm.
different cultures and things of that nature, so I saw a lot, and I
Okay.
just realized I kept asking why is this, why is that. And so when I moved back home, I had a couple of different jobs, but one of the jobs that I had for quite a while was working with a media organization selling advertising.
Hmm.
And one of the clients of that organization owns a lot of car dealerships. And so I started to meet with him and talk with him. And he turns out he's my current state senator, Jim Bergen. And
Okay.
so I would go and meet with him and talk with him and ask him about his job and ask him about different legislations and things of that nature. And, we had some conversations about my
Okay.
job.
Okay.
I kind
That,
of, uh,
that,
well, long story, I was trying to give you the background,
okay.
but
Yeah.
long story short, he asked me what my dream job was, and I told him it was the state senate.
Okay. That now, did you tell him you were going to be running against him?
He found out recently we had an event in Dunn called the Cotton Festival. So part of that story I was going to say was when I told him originally, he laughed, and then when we last met and I let him know, I had reached out to him because I wanted to have a sit down. We've had several sit downs over the years,
Hmm.
and he was out of town. And so when I saw him at the event that we have here every fall, I said, I've been reaching out. He was like, oh, what were you reaching out for? And I was like, well, I wanted to, talk to you about being your successor. I'm really interested in any knowledge or wisdom you're willing to impart. And he said, because he had told me before that he placed term limits on himself. And he said, well, you've miscalculated because I actually have one more term. And I said, oh. And so that's how he knows. And now everyone's
Okay.
filed. So all the
Oh,
wall,
okay.
and now
So,
it's time for us to all
so
show
you,
the constituents what we're capable of.
okay. So you talk with him. You don't let him know all this stuff. So,
Hmm.
all right. That's interesting. I get it from your conversation, all that you were talking about. And it's a question I always like to ask, and that is what qualifies you. But you basically almost talked about that. You've been around these folk, you've talked with them, you've seen them, you have always been interested in politics. So I can see that qualification there. But I do want to ask this question, and the question, and it's interesting. What is it that you feel like you have to offer
Hmm.
to the constituents of the 12th district?
Hmm. Well, one of the things that is so important that I feel like is lost in politics today is listening, right?
Okay.
So I come from an education background. I'm an adjunct professor at William Peace University. I also teach at Duke in the Center for Documentary Studies online. And one of the things that I see with all of my students is you can stand in the front of the classroom and you can talk the entire time.
Mhm.
You can tell your every story, and you can, just impart the best wisdom you ever had on them. But what really makes the difference is listening,
Okay.
sitting back, taking in what they're saying, being an active listener, asking questions. And that's made a major difference. And even setting people up to tell successful stories. I actually teach speech at William Peace University, professional communications, and I'm teaching a class I actually created at the City of College in New York called The Art of the impactful story at Duke.
Hmm.
And I give people a lot of frameworks. I teach them these frameworks to tell more compelling stories so people are willing to listen, so people can follow. And
Hmm.
so, one of my stellar qualifications outside of reading, because I'm actually going to be reading the legislation instead of just signing along party lines and
Hmm.
things of that nature. But my ability to listen, I can listen to people. I know a lot of people. So when it comes time to making connections, like there's different nonprofits in our area. Even when I filed, I had to declare where the monies I raise will go, upon the conclusion of the campaign.
Hmm.
And we have someone called Mama Moses, and she has what she calls her Underground Railroad. They just did a massive toy giveaway
Hmm.
with bikes and clothes and all those types of things. So, what really qualifies me is my ability to make one-on-one connections, listen to people, and then take that information and deploy it in the directions that are most successful to help us move forward as a community.
Okay. Now, though, obviously there are going to be quite a few issues, I assume, that's going to be coming before the North Carolina uh, s- State Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously gerrymandering is already a big issue.
Right.
Uh, I assume we're going to be dealing with stuff like Medicaid at some point. Is there any of those particular issues, excuse me, any of those particular issues that you feel that's most important to you that you feel like, look, I need to tackle this in some way?
Mm. Um, Some of the issues that are the most important to me are surrounding budget, finance,
Okay.
money.
Okay.
Of course, the gerrymandering, from my perspective, has been more on the national level,
Okay.
right? Well, we
Hmm.
see what happened with Don Davis and his
Yeah.
district. Because
Yeah.
out there in Edgecombe County, they're actually represented by a Black woman, Candy Smith,
Hmm.
Senator Candy Smith, who is doing an outstanding job and speaks truth to power and anyone else that will listen.
Okay.
Uh, I'm a part of a group, Emerge, the Emerge Action Fund, the Black Women's Leadership Collective. So not only am I in the legislature for my job, writing about what's going on in the General Assembly, but I've also been there with the Black Women's Leadership Collective, and Senator Smith was one of our trainers that sat with us and
Okay.
us about the nuances of the experience. So, a lot of budget things are going to be really important to me. A lot of economic development things are important to me. I think our median household income in Harnett County, in which District 12 is Harnett County, Lee County, and a small part of Northwest Sampson County. Our medium household income is around $52,000 to $55,000. So we need living wage jobs here. And
Hmm.
with the Carolinian, I'm covering a lot of what's happening in the RTP. I'm seeing Novartis and these other big drug manufacturers that have been prompted to manufacture their drugs here as opposed to dealing with Trump's tariffs. Some of those same companies could be looking into Harnett County. It's very
Okay.
important that we protect farmland. And one of my priorities, you're asking about my priorities, is prioritizing farmers, prioritizing agriculture, rural
Okay.
health care.
Okay.
These are things that are very, very important. But yeah, overall, Bob Etheridge, former Congressman Bob Etheridge,
Hmm.
is a part of the Harnett County Democrats,
Yeah, I
and
know it.
he has drilled into us health care, education, living wage jobs, and so
Okay.
I always say, even as an educator, when I grade my students, I grade them as a rubric. So when we get into this legislation, my priorities are going to be things that touch those three because that's what impacts us all.
Okay. How doing and running for a political position
Mm-hmm.
can be very challenging. A lot of travel, a lot of talking to people. There's a lot of hopefully, obviously you must like folk if you're going to run for politics. So no question about that aspect. How are you basically doing this? Are you doing it by person to person, just trying to meet as many folk as you can, or you got a pretty good sized budget that you're working with in terms of media and what have you? Uh, Talk a little bit about that so that listeners can get a good feel for where you are and how you're going to be running your campaign.
Hmm. Well, there's no big budget. I am on the Shirley Chisholm model. I'm unbought and unbossed. My average contribution thus far is at about $63. So it's definitely small dollar donations. But as far as the travel part and the being and different things, as a journalist, that's already happening. I mean, I
Mhm.
was in your neck of the woods on Friday
Yeah.
covering the Black Nativity play. So that's something that excites me, and I enjoy meeting people. Many of my conversations have been one to one. Since I've been a part of different training programs, I've been able to meet lots of different people and take in lots of advice. And some of the advice that I've been given has helped me make strategic connections that can, open up more opportunities to connect with people. So one of the things that's actually going to be happening in January and February on Thursday evenings, I'm launching a We the People listening tour. And
Okay.
again, it's going back to giving people the opportunity to tell me what their priorities are instead of me telling them,
Mhm.
what I perceive as their priority. So every Thursday, I have different speakers coming from the legislature out to Harnett County, other elected officials and dignitaries. You are definitely invited, Dr. Smith. And so I'm just creating opportunity to build community with like-minded folks. But
Mhm.
I'm also, when I'm out and about here, sharing my flyers, sharing newspaper, sharing my one sheet, and just saying to people, hey, this is who I am. I don't have any big, companies or anybody pouring into me. I have no agenda except for the agenda of the people of District 12.
Okay. Uh, I like that. You was obviously at the Black Nativity on Friday.
Yes.
So maybe you were one of those individuals who stood up when my cousin asked for politicians. Were you there at that time?
No, unfortunately,
Oh, you missed
that part. Yeah,
it.
unfortunately.
You
I'm
missed
sad
that.
to hear that.
Yeah, you missed it. He had people who were running to stand, and it was good. Were you there on Friday night, or what night were you there?
Friday night.
Friday night. Okay, you must have got there just a little after that happened. Then okay. All
Unfortunately, yeah.
right. Tell us a little bit about your uh, qualification in terms of your background. I know you talked about you went to, I believe it was the A&T.
Yes, Aggie Pride.
Oh my God. My daughter's a graduate of A&T, and I couldn't get her to go to Central, but
Well, that means you're an Aggie too, because if
well,
you pay Aggie bills, you got Aggie Pride.
that's true. I guess that's true. Uh, and then you left A&T and went to you teach.
Well, actually, from A&T, I went to Kingston University in London and got a master's degree in creative writing and the creative economy.
Okay, okay, all right. So your background is really uh, one that I would say very fitting for what you're getting ready to do.
Thank you.
And so we do appreciate that. Let me ask you a couple of other questions about your run for the Senate.
Hmm.
Uh, I assume you've had conversation with other politicians
That's correct. Hmm.
and that you've gotten lots of advice from other politicians.
Very much so.
Okay. That has been, I assume, very helpful to you.
Immeasurably helpful.
Did it have anything to do with your desire to run for an office, or was that something else?
It's been both because, again, with the Carolinian, I'm actually in the legislature. I'm able to get a press pass and sit on the Senate floor in the
Mhm.
press area and observe things. So I actually 3 years ago got a call from Anderson Clayton, the head of the North Carolina
Mhm.
Democratic Party, asking me to run. But
Okay.
at that time, I was actually registered as an independent. I've gone through a lot on my thoughts of the political process and feelings and thoughts about leadership. So, for the better and for the worse. So I really sat with the fact that she called me and asked that. That really meant a lot to me. And again,
Hmm.
growing up, I had heard you talk to people, be in sales, be in politics. So it was
Hmm.
always something on the back of my mind. So when she called, that kind of validated something towards me. And that's when I started participating more in the Harnett County Democrats. And when my line sister, called me and said, "Hey, you should look into this Black Women's Leadership Collective program." I was like, that's exactly what I need. So
Hmm.
there are legislators that I was connecting with already because of the Carolinian, that were not necessarily campaign advice, but just advising me on how to carry myself in the General Assembly, how to move in politics, how to talk to people, how to get the information that I need. And then being a part of this collective has just opened up the threshold to get even more information, much more tailored information to help me succeed, because a lot of these people are excited about being my colleague, which really means the world to me,
Mm.
or about me being their colleague. So
Well, I guess either way it works.
right. But that's part of the respect of, you
Yeah,
know, the institution,
that's true.
people like Senator Dan Blue, I
Hmm.
remember filling in his name when I'm with my mom and she was
Hmm.
voting when I was a kid. So to go there and for him to be receptive and smiling and encouraging to me, it means so much.
Well, when you get a chance to talk to him, please tell him you were on the Deal by Me podcast with his good friend James W. Smith. Okay.
I would definitely.
uh, this has been amazing. And I'm wishing you well. I do wish you well, and I see in you that politician, if I may say it. And I don't like using that word because some people see that as being in a negative light, but I'm saying it to you in a positive light with that personality, and you have that joy of wanting to talk with people, find out where they are, listening to them, and getting their perspective on things. And I think that's what a good politician is, one who's willing to listen. And I hear you say that, to see where the pulse of the community is, and what individuals are really touched by what they're dealing with and what they're going through, and how I can, as a politician, meet some of those needs. And I think when you can do that, then you really, you know, uh, that job means means so much to not only you but to the people that you represent. So I'm glad to hear that from you. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to just say? Want listeners to know about you or
Sure.
what you're going to do?
Yes. I look at my workspaces because I do a couple of different things, and one of the biggest benefits that I think we don't talk about enough are multi-generational workspaces, and just learning from different generations. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can, see what other people are doing. Even when I met you and you were like, "Well, I got a podcast." And I was like, "Well, I want to be on your podcast."
Mhm.
Like there's no age limit, but there are energy and capacity issues.
Okay.
And so a lot of times in government, we see a lot of older people, but we're not really opening the gates and encouraging young people. And I've dealt with that myself. I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're not old enough, you don't know enough, you don't know enough people." And it's like, but I'm willing to get out there and meet those people. I'm
Mhm.
willing to, someone pointed out to me in the Harnett County Democrats, a lot of times when we have booths and tables, people kind of sit behind the table. And somebody pointed out, "Oh, you're standing in front of the table, you're talking to everybody." I'm like, I've got the energy, I'm
Mhm.
ready, I'm excited.
Mhm.
And so I would just ask that, your listeners and whoever reaches this, pour into that. I do
Okay.
need resources, I do need donations. I will share with you all the links so you can accompany it with this video. But I'm going after that Shirley Chisholm model, unbought and unbossed. I want to stay with the people. I want to stay focused on the people, because I really enjoy this work, and I
Mhm.
want to I want to take it to the next level, and I want to be able to sustain that. So just if you're able to support, please support, and just keep following the campaign. It's pretty much JheriForNc, and my name is spelled Jheri. My mom is a creative type. So I just appreciate the support,
Uh,
the prayers, the resources, and I'm just happy to be in the room.
okay.
When they show me, how my name was going to appear on the ballot, I'm happy to be on the ballot. I just choose to enjoy this process. This
Okay.
brings so much joy, bringing me so many contacts, and on another level is actually bringing me closer to God because I have to have faith in the people who are
Mhm.
working with me that they're going to do what they say that they're going to do.
Mhm.
Faith in the voters that when they tell me they support me, they're really going to go in there
Mhm.
and check next to my name. So it's a test of faith, but it's also faith
Right.
without works is dead. So I'm putting
Mhm.
work.
Uh, Jheri, I'm gonna let you go, but I have to ask you this because this is part of what my podcast is all about. Um, when I started it, I had retired from pastoring after 32 years at the same church.
Mm,
I practiced law for about 10 years, ministry for 32 years. And as a matter of fact, I'm still doing it now because I'm serving as an interim at my home church, where I've been almost 3 years now. So, but when I started this podcast, I started just about a couple of months before I retired as pastor of my church of 32 years. And I did it because I wanted to do something I thought would be encouraging, inspiring, and transforming. And so, my question to you, and I can't let you go without asking,
uh-huh.
if there are people, young folk, young people out there who may be interested in politics, may be interested in journalism, may be interested in doing some of the same thing you're doing,
Mhm.
what would you say that will be encouraging to them or that may be inspiring and maybe even transformative? We don't know.
Mhm. I would say the number one thing to anyone who is, looking down any of these paths or really, really any path, because, I do have a lot of these conversations as an educator. Don't ever sleep on the people power. Right.
Okay.
I meet so many people and we have these dynamic conversations and they're like, oh my gosh, let's stay in touch. Let's do this. And then I don't hear from them. I try to follow up with as many people as I can, but we all have our own goals. We all
Hmm.
have our agenda. So I follow up with a lot. Like I followed up with you. I
Hmm.
wanted to
Hmm.
be on your podcast. So I would say follow up with people, reach out to people. I reach out to some people and they don't respond. They will completely ignore me. And
Hmm.
that's okay.
Hmm.
You tried. But
Hmm.
don't leave no stone unturned.
Okay.
Talk to people. If you're at an event and you see somebody that does something you want to do, go up, hey man, I love how you're doing X, Y, and Z. They'll say thank you and walk away, or they'll say, oh, I appreciate that. What are you doing? Just talk to people, meet people where they are.
Hmm.
It's just that's been the biggest transformative things. The jobs that I have now, I say I'm retired because I love everything I do. I love teaching. I love working with the Carolinian, and these things came about from networking and talking to people.
Okay.
So talk to people. Don't be scared. Just be yourself. And there's that scene from House Party. I won't say it, but House Party and Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac says, "Be yourself. If they don't like
Okay.
you, then
I
go look
got you.
that up."
I got you. Jheri, it's been a pleasure having you as a guest on the Deal
Thank
by Me
you.
podcast, and you've been a joy to talk to. I've truly enjoyed having you. Uh, and there you have it, Jheri Hardaway sharing with us today. And until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.